Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This might be a first. So he's equivocated a whole bunch of things like historical events, true crimes, various things with his situation with the firing at AMS. I don't know if he's ever done 9/11. I want to say he hasn't, but maybe in passing he's just like mentioned it very quickly. But here it's pretty explicit. So my 9/11, every tower I had built brought down by American musical supply and the Saudi government.
So we are officially in the end game of all this.
Oh, lordy lord.
I am so weak and so hungry. If I try to get out of...
Now, Paul, I finished up my last video. I'm going to say this. You've got to keep the act straight. So you're a weak, frail man. You don't have a lot of movement. You can't really, do all the big gestures and get dramatic and throw around like, fans and glasses and all the stuff that you do. You've just got to keep that in mind. Let's keep focus. We're method acting here. It's got to be dialed in. There's no, you can't break the character. Once the act is up, people will see through it. So we're going to be consistent here. We're going to be very consistent. You're frail. You're a weak, old, homeless man. The world is out to get you. The pressure is too much. Make me feel something here, Paul.
Out of this car and stand up for any length of time, I just get dizzy. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I went out and sold something that I had saved up for a long time. I paid $250 for it.
Sure.
The pawn shop gave me $35 for it.
Is that the car reader? Or did he? I think he paid $300 for that one.
It's basically 10% of what I paid for it 2 years ago. The other thing I paid $50 for, they gave me 10. And the other thing, which was my second large monitor, they didn't even need.
Yeah, it was one of those curved monitors. I used to have one of them, but I guess in the right-hand side of one of these curved monitors, a whole bunch, it had like this shadowing effect, a very like weird purple shadow in the corner. And it was only progressively getting worse. And I can't remember if I had smacked it or dropped it or something like that. It just started like clouding out the side. So I eventually was able to get a warranty replacement and it worked out all right, but it was driving me crazy.
Never dreamt I would die of starvation in the wealthiest nation the world has ever known, and I certainly never dreamt it would be because of a tiny number of low-class people who run a music store. Among other things that are gone wrong with the car, the brakes need replacing, and that obviously is not going to happen. The battery is essentially dead. When I turn off the car,
I guess is there an inspection point where I'm guessing he has to take responsibility for the vehicle being fully maintained, serviced, and the brakes working okay or well enough to stop. Is there a certain point where this becomes criminal? So it's essentially you're being so negligent by driving this car around with really bad brakes. Does it become like criminal negligence where you go to hit the brakes and you literally can't, and you just plow into like a school, like a long line of school children, like going to class or something? Like what would be the outcome of that?
the battery dies anywhere from a half hour to, I don't know, the most I've gotten out of it lately is maybe 6 hours. I have no idea what's going on there. I don't know if it's draining or what. Or it might be the alternator with my luck, since there's oil dripping from the engine onto the alternator. That's exactly what happened with the Cougar, which was also a Ford. The serpentine belt that I replaced right after I got fired, $150 there, that thing has gotten so much oil on it that it's already going out.
I'm not even going to go into a spiel. He's not going to do anything about this. He's just going to allow it to happen, and he's going to be scratching his head at the end saying, "Fucking American musical supply did this." They're to blame. There's nothing else.
Needs replacing again. I can't do it. When that goes out, the car just overheats in 10 seconds. It's undrivable. So I have to remember to start the car frequently to recharge the battery. If I don't, then somewhere between a half hour and 6 hours, the battery will die. And when I go, it's going to go click, 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 click. When that happens,
Yeah, that battery's on the way out, so that's definitely an indication that if you leave your car the engine cold, and I can leave my car, like, I mean, I've got a dual battery setup. I've got two in there, so if one fails, I've got another one in there ready to go. But if you only get 6 hours to, like, basically switch the car over before this battery dies, it's at the end of its life in terms of the battery. It needs a replacement battery. No way about it. Like, it has to happen.
let's stuff apart.
Yeah, the first time I ever, like, so I had to like hot start my car, and I guess for whatever reason, my friend's car was just completely incompatible. Like, it could not be charged off, so I couldn't charge my car from his or vice versa. Anyway, we tried, and this, I guess, he didn't actually put the alternative cable down on a metal surface. So we went to start it, and it was basically not clipped down properly, and it was more on I guess a metal component, and there was just this flint, this spark popped, and we both fried our batteries. We both fried our. It was just crazy. We were just like, "What the fuck just happened?" It's not good that you're like struggling for something to talk about, Paul. When you're getting to the point where it's a chore to really extract any more like scripts, and you can't really talk about anything off the cuff, but it has to be in this very well put together document before you make these videos. It's like, well, you're essentially trying to get blood from a stone.
That's it's on the big computer.
Oh
And of course,
God.
because this is all broken, my $1,000 computer. Look at just picking it up makes the fans do all that.
And I mean, all right, so it's 110 in there. So how much does the fan and how much like thermal heat does the gaming laptop generate? It must, it's got to raise the temperature up another like 10 degrees at least.
I have to be very careful opening this thing because it's all cracked. And I can't see the edges.
Maybe because you fucking throw shit around your car. You throw them around, like, you just chuck shit around, and like, you hear it crash. No wonder the shit breaks.
That's where it is. I can barely even see it.
And legitimately, that gaming laptop would be the most expensive thing in the car, outside of like stripping the car for parts. Maybe you get something out of the car that's maybe worth more. But the gaming laptop is it. It's the end of the line in terms of shit worth stealing.
I have no idea where my mouse is.
But in a good way, it frees him up to maybe actually leave the car now. So there's nothing expensive in the car. There's nothing left. No thief is going to come in and like just rummage through like old documents from a previous employer. Like, there's nothing of interest. So, and the car barely runs, and I don't think it would be used as a like um a crime vehicle, like something to go ram raid something. Well, maybe actually it might be the perfect car, but honestly, I don't think anyone's really gonna waste too much time with the Ford Fusion.
Oh, great. All my Q-tips just fell off the other side of the seat. I have no idea where my mouse is.
Yeah, I think you show that stupid mouse. It doesn't have any divots like a normal mouse would, where you kind of just like lay two fingers on each side, so you click left, click right. It's also very flat, and it's pink. It's a very bizarre looking mouse. It's like, I don't think I'd ever get comfortable using a mouse like that.
So I gotta put on my shoes.
Oh, Lord, Paul. Why do you do this to yourself? Get prepared. Oh, God. I thought he couldn't move. I think he's literally too weak to move. Like, I don't know, when you come out of like anesthesia or something, I just remember I was so out of it and weak that I literally could not move. So if I said I can't get up and I can't move, it was what it, like that was actually the truth. I could not do it. So like, what are the levels of deterioration going on here, Paul?
I don't even know what the point of this is anymore. How many ways can you describe pure evil?
I think you tapped out, Paul. Like, it's literally you're hitting a threshold of you just need to go into pure, like, I mean, you've already gone into pure fantasy a lot. I think beyond this point is you've done all the what if scenarios. It just has to be this alternative universe where it's just completely a new story, and it might have aspects of what's happening right now, but you've pushed your reality as far as you can. You've done the what if scenarios, so there's nothing left. You need a new chapter, Paul. It has to move on. Like, there's nothing left to say.
If people don't get it the first time, they're not going to get it the thousandth time.
Because you don't explain it well, Paul. You've literally never done a concise video actually explaining this. I'm going to do a gift guide. Ugly Man's Gift Guide is basically explaining the gift, because it's the number one question I get on this channel is like, what the fuck is the gift? And I can probably like break it down like within 5 minutes, so, or even less. So I'll probably do that video soon, because yeah, it's the number one question seems to be like, well, what the hell was the gift? Can someone explain the gift? And it's like, yeah, I guess if you didn't watch all these videos, it still might be a mystery.
So I've lost absolutely everything that took me 56 years of life to accumulate. Over the last 18 years in Minnesota, when I started fresh, when I came here with nothing but a junk.
I feel bad for Paul, because it is must be like just exhausting to tell this, like do all the preamble, get into the story, and recount everything, and it's like, I've gone through this so many times. He's just like over it at this point.
Drum set and a guitar and a laptop computer. At least once a week on my days off, for what it's worth, once a week. For 18 years. Let me see, that's 52 weeks times 18. 936, almost 1,000. And when you consider that I went out.
How the fuck do I have him on 2x and he is still so painfully slow? It's like sometimes I have to check it just to make sure I haven't fucked it up. But he's still so painfully goddamn slow at talking.
On both my days off quite often. It's probably more like 1,100 days over the last 18 years that I was going out and shopping for things like the great deals I had on that music studio, which is now gone, thanks to American Musical Supply. All the tools of my trade, all the graphic design tools, my green screen, my video tools, all the CD.
Yeah, that is the fan. That is the fan, like spluttering and it's like crying out. This laptop is crying out for help.
And the books and the reference materials, the power tools, all the guitar tools, all these things, more than 1,000 days. And I would go out on days that I worked as well. So, I mean, who knows? It might be more like 2,000 days over the last 18 years when I have gone out to thrift shops and garage sales and half-price books and all these different things. Just hunting and searching to find these great things that I accumulated over 18 years. And for the hundreds of things that I had here, I had thousands of them in California. That was my whole life from birth until age 40. And American Musical Supply can't even tell me why they did this. They can't even give me a reason for this. Can you imagine how that gnaws at a person's soul? What torture that is to lose everything you've worked for since the day you took your first breath outside your mother's womb. And the people who did this to you can't even tell you why it happened.
Maybe it would have been just better. It was like, hi Paul, can you come into the office, please? We really have some bad news. It's like they're firing him for, obviously the backstabber stuff, but because they know all this, like all the bullshit, he's going to make hundreds of hours of like content about this. They're like, if they knew ahead of time, they'd be like, well, let's just like say we're restructuring and downsizing the call center, and unfortunately, we've just had to let you go. Times are tough, inflation, Bidenomics, all that sort of stuff. We really don't want to see you go, Paul, but and it's just tormenting us to have to let you go. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is at the moment, and we really wish you luck on your next employment endeavor. They could have maybe. Like, I mean, I'm not sure Paul would really accept any of that. He would still be pretty like heated. These videos still probably would exist, but at the very least, it maybe gives him an opportunity to move on and not so much be comfortable with the fact, but also just maybe it's a little bit easier to deal with. But everything around the backstabber was so dramatic and full of tension and hurt feelings and anger that obviously he's like a dog with a bone, he won't let it go. So maybe for his own personal benefit, it would have been better if it's like, all right, we're going to fire him, but we're just going to lie to say we're restructuring.
One of the first things I did was buy a USA-made Gibson Les Paul, the most gorgeous guitar you ever saw. And I babied that thing for 7 years in storage.
Yeah, so that was his priority back then. It was like, well, I got my first paycheck. What am I going to do with it? A safe, comfortable dwelling to live in, a nice little house that's full of charm, and I can really have a lot of great memories here. No, I'm going to buy a bloody guitar. Well done, Paul.
I humidified it. That thing sang like an angel. That's a $1,400 guitar. It's the most expensive thing that I'm aware of that I've ever bought in my life, other than cars. $1,400 guitar. I got $400 for it. That's one payment for California storage. American Musical Supply can't even tell me why. And when I say can't tell me why, they literally can't tell me why. Because if they just come out and admit the truth, we're just a bunch of mindless bigots. It's illegal to wear the hood in the Ku Klux Klan anymore. So we're going to go after the one group that is not a protected class, homeless people. And we're going to destroy their lives. We're going to kill them because we can. And we're going to go home and feel really powerful, really good about ourselves. And that backstabber's going to go, and I don't even want to tell you what she's most likely doing. I don't want
Well, you got to give it to Paul on this one. He's had some self-restraint. For once, he's had some self-restraint with these like thoughts that are just like bubbling to the top. He wants to say it. He wants to say it. He wants to say something about what she's doing. But for once, I'm going to say he's restrained himself. But we'll give him a little bit.
think about that. That's sickening.
Don't
When
do
this
it.
ridiculous, malicious complaint came up, American Musical Supply, just me coming up with options, had 9 options. And they had more. They could have come up with more. Number 1, they could have sat down with me and the backstabber and talked it out like grown adult
No, they don't do that anymore for a very particular reason.
professionals. Come to an agreement and let both of us get back to work and earn the money we need to survive. They could have done that. American Musical Supply could have done that. They could have done that. They could have done that.
Yeah, and then it goes south, and you flip out, and maybe do something you'd regret, and it would possibly end up with you in handcuffs.
Number 2, they could have actually done an investigation. And if they had, they would have realized what the backstabber did, and then they could have talked to her about it.
They did an investigation. They would have done an internal investigation, Paul, and it didn't end up well for you because there was a preponderance of evidence that indicated you as a complete fucking sicko.
Come to some agreement, let her get back to work. Number 3, they could have done
Yeah, they came to an agreement. You're gone. She goes back to work.
any kind of investigation, realized what the backstabber had done, and written her up, and let her get back to work. Number 4, they could have investigated anything at all.
Number 3 and number 4 are the same thing.
Realized what the backstabber did, and put her on temporary unpaid leave, but keeping her job.
Yeah, she probably did get like temporary paid leave because of all the bullshit. Like they needed to like relocate her, which I think literally happened. I'm going to go Paul mode. I'm going to say I think, I suspect. I'm not completely sure, but maybe.
Number 5, they could have investigated anything at all. Realized
What the fuck? The 3, 4, 5 are all this the same point. Like, what are you even talking about? Just congeal them all into one point.
what the backstabber did, and fired her.
You're fully.
Which is, in fact, the most appropriate thing, I think. Because when you go into a workplace, if you're going to sit...
I'm pretty sure this was her backup bullshit job. I almost want to say this was just her side gig. So if she was fired or not, I don't think it really bugged her all that much.
sit there and attack your coworkers. And it doesn't matter if you're doing it with a baseball bat or if you're doing it with this sick psychology of hers. It's still an attack against your coworker. And the proof is me walking around wanting to die throughout the holidays that everybody saw. She should have got fired. But I never wanted her to get fired because losing your job is the worst thing. It is one of the very worst things that can happen to most people. And for me, it is the absolute worst. Number 6 option American Musical Supply had. If they really truly think I did something wrong somewhere, they could have proved it. You know, talk to me. They could have proved that I did anything wrong at all. And they could have talked to me about it and let me get back to work. Number 7, they could have proved that I had done anything at all wrong instead of doing everything right. Asking the backstabber's permission.
This is all the same point. So it's like he wants them to investigate and like have a sit down chat, go through all the points with him, provide the evidence and what he is being accused of, which I don't think they owe him that at all. Um, I mean, surely it would have been at the very least, it would have to indicate some sort of misconduct is really more the word. It's some sort of severe misconduct that is to a point that your employment is terminated. It's so tough with Paul to really get a beat without getting a representative of AMS to literally clarify. So I am like, if Paul is telling the truth and it was just like a vague, you are fired, we owe you no explanation, which is, I don't know, it's kind of odd in a way. Um, then yeah, it does leave that question open, and unfortunately for Paul, he might take that and run all the way with it.
Permission, showing respect for her, keeping my suspicions completely private to protect her reputation. If they could show that I did anything actually wrong, they could have written me up. Number 8, if they could prove that I did anything wrong, which I didn't, they could put me on temporary unpaid leave.
I think they did, yeah. Like I think they literally did put you on leave before, and then the investigation process went on. So I think I said this before. It was like I want to say the 20th or the 22nd he did the gift, and then he was walked out on that day. Now he wasn't fired, but he was put on unpaid leave or possibly even paid leave. I am not too sure on those details. I might have to go back to his first videos to further clarify that one. But there is a lapse of time. So if we're to believe he gave the gift in and around the 20th to the 22nd of February, he didn't start showing up doing these videos until the 17th of March. So it's like 2 or 3 weeks later. And he says he was officially let go on the 15th of March, the Ides of March. So Julius Caesar got done in by Brutus, was it?
That's 8 options they had available that were non-catastrophic, that did not destroy a man's entire 56-year life, wipe out his entire family, and kill him.
Yes, so family means not biological family, it's his American Musical Supply co-working family. So if you've ever thought, what the fuck is this dude talking about? It came to me the other day when I was watching one of these dumb videos. He said it very explicitly, and I was like, oh, there you go. That's what he means. That's what he means.
They could have done any of those. And when you consider that I'd been there for 7 years, consistently shown great performance and reliability, attendance, and I had no disciplinary history, how does it make any rational sense that they didn't do any of these?
Yeah, someone said somewhere that he confirmed that he did give the 3D renders and even framed a 3D render. Now, actually, the guy in the Reddit video, if you go back to the Reddit video, he also confirmed that, but I don't know how credible he was or if he was a real person. I suspect he was, or he actually did work at AMS, but I don't know how he would be privy to that information outside of maybe contacting someone within AMS at the time and confirming that. But I haven't got to the part where he says this yet, where he said I gave her a 3D render, because that was what I used to call element X. What was this X factor that no one really understood or knew why? Because on the surface, if you believe everything he's saying, and he has 8 years with the company, or 7 or 8 years with the company, with no other disciplinary action. He hasn't been served any warnings or written up. He hasn't, and he's had pure bonuses every year. Everyone's been happy with him. But this one transgression was so severe that they looked at it, they did the internal investigation, HR looked at it and said, ain't no way, dude. So the fact that the 3D renders are now confirmed, I haven't heard him say it yet. It's possibly still coming. There's 1 hour, 40-minute video he recently uploaded that I haven't gone through, so I'm guessing it's somewhere in there. But I think it's confirmed that he was doing 3D renders of this woman, and it was probably and most likely part of the gift. So depending on the nature of the 3D render on its face is still kind of fucking odd and weird. But if there's any indication of her in a fucking bikini looking at some bad 3D render of Paul going, oh yeah, Like it's over. Like there's, uh, I don't think there's much you can do. I think you can really make much of an argument for Paul in that sense. So I'm guess I'm gonna have to find this goddamn thing where he says it. But yeah, people have apparently confirmed that he has done 3D renders of the Backstabber. So that was always my element X. I always had that theory that yes, he has done some sort of weird what if scenario, like like a badly rendered Sims like thing where she's just like in some state of undress or looking sexually provocative, and Paul's just like, Paul's done a few renders of himself where he's like a beefcake or looking like very odd. He looks like what was his name from Genesis? Peter Gabriel. He looks like Gabriel. His little blog website. He has a picture of him, and he looks like fucking Peter Gabriel. So he's done some weird like renders of himself. So yeah, if it's the truth, and he did do 3D renders of her, knowing what kind of 3D renders he does in conjunction with what he probably sent her, I'm thinking this is absolutely confirmed of what he was fired for.
Instead, they just don't say a word. And in the case of this local HR rep, they don't listen to a word either.
And that's the weird. That's also like a really weird psychological thing with Paul is he's related stories where he's done 3D renders of people, and he claims up and down it's not a sexual thing. He's not trying to make it provocative on purpose. He's not trying to suggest anything sexually explicit throughout them. It's just he's very, very proud of the work he did to make them. So it's like an artist drawing a beautiful woman in a bikini, but it's more of look at my artistry as opposed to look at the huge tits on this chick I've drawn as like an anime girl. And I'm kind of like really turned on by it. That's why I did it. It's so weird. Like it's not very believable if you really think about it, but Paul has related a story where he was very proud of these 3D renders he gave to this one woman in the library. But it's all might be a smoke screen. Like there's a secret sicko in there, and it's just like he's not letting it loose.
Like those monkeys. And they fire me. Without telling me why, without accusing me of doing anything wrong. And here's the kicker. After they fired me, what'd they do? They hand me that manila envelope. It's buried in back. I'm way too tired to even try to get that out. You know, the one that has other papers in there from this company that says our workers are our most valuable assets. If their workers are their most valuable assets, how much more valuable is their most valuable worker as an asset? The one who takes all this abuse for 7 years, all this exploitation, the one who goes far beyond what they have to do, does things off the clock, makes up for what might be lacking in some of my coworkers, and is a reliable rock who will be there, and if I'm not, it's going to be because of my vehicle, and I'm going to let them know. Our workers are our most...
Yeah, he got caught in the weather once, and he didn't turn up to work on time, or maybe not. He just couldn't make it in that day, and it's like because they gave him the HR woman basically gave him a no show. So he's got this impeccable record of showing up, and at one time he literally just could not make it. The HR woman who was like some like Indian woman like on a H1B1 visa or something like that. Literally couldn't speak much English, and she just like obnoxiously wrote a no-show. So it killed his record. His perfect record was destroyed by her.
Why would they offer me severance if I was terminated for a good reason? This was a flat-out attack.
Yeah, they've kind of messed up on like 2 points. So if they have offered him severance for something he's clearly should have been let go, where yeah they've rightfully gotten rid of him, let him go, and cut ties entirely. They shouldn't have tried to offer him a severance package or like a golden not a golden parachute or something like that. But and on the second point, they actually acknowledged someone on Twitter baited them out to get them to acknowledge this situation, and they did. And that's another thing was like you didn't need to. Like this is not something you actually need to acknowledge. Like this is not someone you should really like. You should engage with in good faith, because Paul doesn't really treat the situation in good faith. It was a tactical error on their part.
And as I've said so many times, they knew for a fact that this was going to be the outcome. They knew it. I told them over and over, and to the best of my ability, I explained why this could be the only outcome. They knew this would be the outcome. But instead of any of those 8 options, or any other options they might have been able to come up with, they chose the one and only option that guaranteed this outcome. 6 months of human torture, torment, that I can't even describe to people. Only people who went through the Holocaust can even relate to what I'm going through.
Could they even relate? Could they really understand? It's like, well, maybe to a degree, but it would be so, a point at a time where it's just, I'm dying, I'm starving in this encampment here, and the guards are making us walk back and forth with salt bags on our backs for no particular reason in like an ice cold winter in the German woods. And then Paul stops them and say, you know what, Chezwazza, you know what? This is exactly what I'm going through in my time. And it's just as bad, if not worse. And they'd be like looking at him dead-eyed and going, I do not understand, my friend.
Everything I worked for the last 7 years in American musical supply. And then dying a horrifying death from starvation in a first world nation.
Oh, he loves that line. He loves that dumb line. It's dying from starvation in a first world nation. It's his slogan. He whips it out every now and again. He doesn't do it often.
And they can't even tell me why they did that. Losing everything I worked my entire life for, everything I worked for the last 7 years in American musical supply, and then dying a horrifying death from starvation in a first world nation. And they can't even tell me why they did this. They can't even tell me their names.
I need to look that up now. I need to see like where does that come from? Who said it? Because Paul has it on his mind. Die of starvation in a first world nation. Who said it? Anyone say it? It's a quote. Yeah, no, I literally can't find any quotable, like someone's quoted this, or any permutation of dying or I died or dying of starvation in a first world nation. I mean, someone must have said that at some point, but this might actually be a Paul original. It might be a Paul original. He could coin this.
I don't have the energy to get that riled up.
Guys, I will leave it there. We are fast approaching the precipice. We are leaning over a sheer cliff face of Paul's comeback on YouTube. He says he's almost done, and then he's going to do some sort of bullshit mock trial somewhere. I'm thinking he's going to do it where he did the AMS HR a thing that was completely wacky and made no sense. I think it was in that Paul University video. Alright guys, there's a little bit more I think I might do. He's got a really terrible history lesson coming up as part of this video, but I think I recorded about an hour, so I'll split the videos up. I didn't know I'd be evoking Peter Gabriel today, but yeah, it's that stupid render just reminded me of him. Alright guys, till next time.